Hi, welcome to a quick tour of the King County Law Library. My name is Sean. I will be your guide for the next few minutes. Let's get started. The library has two locations. The main branch is in downtown Seattle, and it opened in 1915, if I'm not mistaken. It's now on the 6th floor of the King County Courthouse at 3rd and James. We also have a location in Kent in the Mailing Regional Justice Center, which opened in 1997. Seattle is the larger location with more foot traffic and a larger collection, which makes sense given its location in the courthouse. But we try to maintain a commonality of core resources in both locations. So that would include such things as annotated state statutes, state reporters, and core treatises like Washington Practice and the Washington State Bar Association desk books. Library staff consists of 6 very capable, dedicated, and, as my script reads, remarkably handsome librarians. We typically have 5 people working in our Seattle location at a given time, and then there's one intrepid soul manning the outpost in Kent. But as with many things these days, the staffing arrangement might have to be tweaked a little bit depending on foot traffic. After our mandatory COVID-inspired exile from the courthouse, we finally reopened the library doors in May of 2021. A big difference being that now we have a much more robust online presence too. We've managed to give our patrons remote access to a wealth of very helpful do-it-yourself resources and databases, and subscribers can even remotely check out electronic versions of important treatises for the first time in the library's history. One important thing to make note of is our proximity to the court clerk's offices. Here in Seattle, we share the 6th floor of the courthouse with the Superior Court Clerk's office. They're just right across the elevator lobby from us. And in Kent, the clerk's offices are similarly close. This is important because there's a lot of back and forth between our two offices, the library and the clerk. Sometimes patrons will come into the library to get a form or print out a form and then just walk it across the hall to file it. And then just as likely, they might go into the clerk's office first, get told they need a form of some kind, and then come over to the library to find out exactly what form they need and maybe to get a little guidance. To help orient us on this tour, I thought I'd show you a little map of our Seattle location. We'll be walking from the elevators west through the front doors. We'll take a left turn to the south, go down and then head back north through the staff area up to the north side and end our tour there. As you walk into the library, the first thing you encounter is, of course, the reference desk, still with some barriers for added protection. Before the pandemic, folks could more or less come and go as they pleased. But since we've reopened, we've been a little more careful. While we certainly welcome everyone into the library, we do require that visitors be working on a legal issue during their visit. And for everyone's safety, we've restricted access to open work tables, appropriately distanced computer terminals, and our conference rooms. The last year that we have accurate patron statistics for was 2019. During that year, library staff had more than 25,000 patron interactions and answered over 4,700 substantive reference questions. While the types of questions vary a little between the two branches, Seattle and Kent, for instance, I think gets a higher percentage of probate and landlord-tenant type questions. The most common types of questions are shared between the two. Most prevalent are questions from pro se patrons about how they can achieve a specific task in their case. We would characterize those as civil procedure types of questions. After that, the most popular are family law, landlord-tenant, and probate. And while many years ago, most library patrons were bar members, either attorneys or judges, that proportion has flipped over the decades. So now, roughly 75% of our patrons are self-represented litigants, public, and about 25 are bar members. Although we have seen the percentage of bar members increase just a little bit over the past couple of years, as we've made an effort to reach out to them and to make sure that our service offerings meet the needs of both of those populations. We try to be somewhat egalitarian at the law library. We rotate staff through the front desk throughout the day in roughly 2-hour shifts just to keep everyone fresh. Turning to the left or the south, we will pass our circulation desk. And just beyond that are our public computers. We have 10 here in Seattle and 4 in Kent. But those numbers will likely have to be changed, probably halved or so, in order to allow for social distancing. There are a couple of machines reserved for legal databases, such as Westlaw, in each location, and the rest offer general internet access and Microsoft Office applications. Traditionally, they've been a pretty big draw for the library. There are lots of people who need to come in and either conduct their legal research online or draft forms before they bring them over to the clerk. Just beyond the computers, we have our first row of shelves that contain some reference materials, dictionaries, judges' bench books, and so forth, and what the 1990s might consider a pretty enviable collection of law-related TV shows and movies. Just behind that, we have the bulk of our legal treatise collection. At the very end of that series of rows, at the south end of the library, we find some of the best light in the library and a nice view of historic Smith Tower, as well as one of our conference rooms. We have a total of 6 conference rooms that can be used, many of which can be made available for paid reservations. Those are very popular, or were very popular at lunchtime with the litigating crowd, but that too will likely change depending on the number of in-person trials being held at either location. But we are getting room reservations coming in. Moving back north, we get to the reference well. And this over here is perhaps one of the more important rooms in the library, the staff quiet room, where we can go to recharge and where whispers of serenity now might occasionally be heard. Continuing past the non-circulating collection of reserved books, we get to what is affectionately known as the fishbowl, where the very important work of 3 of our librarians takes place. Everyone on the staff has a number of ongoing projects to work on when they're not on the front desk, but I find that one eye and one ear is always open to what's going on up front with the patrons. Everyone on staff is very quick to jump up when some help is needed. Moving on, we pass the head honcho's office and the desk of one of her minions, and we get to what used to be our training room but is now another conference room. This was converted to a conference room just because those reservations proved to be so popular. We then converted an old archive room into a training room. It's a bit larger, and that's where we'll be hosting our in-person training events whenever those might resume. Continuing north on the west side of the library, we get into our Washington state materials, Washington digests, reporters, of course, as well as some state legislative materials. We have House and Senate journals, bill digests, and the like. And we have a large collection of state Supreme Court briefs. At the very end, we have our lone out-of-state resource, the Annotated California Code. There used to be quite a bit more, but it's gotten pared down. And what I think is the best seat in the house, a little desk with a lovely view of the comings and goings on Elliott Bay. Moving over to the northeast corner, we find our federal materials, the ALRs, federal reporters, and the United States Code annotated, as well as our collection of bar journals and law reviews. We make use of Hein Online to maintain access to current journals, but sometimes it's just really refreshing to put your hands on a physical volume. So if you ever need to step away from your computer and crack open, say, Volume 1 of the Harvard Law Review, we've got you covered. Also in this corner of the library are 3 smaller conference rooms that have traditionally been used for legal clinics, where members of the public can meet with an attorney to receive some advice. We typically host 3 different clinics: the Neighborhood Legal Clinic, a walk-in clinic, which is very, very popular, and a debt defense clinic. As of today, of course, all those consultations are taking place via telephone, and they probably will, at least for the near future. Time will tell how and when those in-person interactions will be taking place again. And that concludes our little tour. Thank you very much for your attention, and please feel free to reach out to us anytime at kcll.org.